Eliza and I recently took the ultimate Southern California food road trip, visiting restaurants, breweries, ice cream shops, and farms from San Diego to the San Gabriel Valley in Los Angeles County. You can find these very fun episodes in the This Is Taste feed. And we can't think of a better time to support these restaurants. Thanks to our friends at Visit California for supporting this epic journey. Visit www.visitcalifornia.com to plan the perfect getaway to California, the ultimate playground.
You know, when I started The Angel, I think I was just sort of throwing things at the wall. But now it's very clear to me that, like, what makes an Angel story, it just has to have, like, an LA angle. I feel like when I'm drawn to a person or a place that I want to profile, it's like, what does it say about LA as a city? Or why does this work in LA specifically? Or how is this person inspired by LA, like Vanessa, Grocery Goblin?
This is Taste. I'm your host, Matt Rodbard. Today on the show, I have such a great conversation with Emily Wilson. She's the founder of The Angel, which is my go-to resource for Los Angeles dining. It's a Substack. You should subscribe to it. We link to it in the show notes. Now, we had this conversation in late December before the wildfires impacted Los Angeles. So it's not referenced in the interview, obviously, but Emily has been doing terrific work covering the relief efforts and where readers can donate. I wanted to have Eliza on at the top. As a Los Angeles native, I think you have a unique perspective on the wildfires and a little more to say.
Yeah, you know, I have lived in New York for a long time, so LA is not a place that I currently live in, but it will always be my home and my hometown. And I think watching the fires, like so many people felt just so lost and concerned for LA and at the same time really heartened by the community efforts that have sprung up out of the fires to help people get back on their feet. And now that we're recording this in February, both the Eden Fire and the Palisades Fire and some of the other fires in the area are finally 100% contained. But as we know, they did rage on for quite a long time. 29 people were killed and more than 16,000 structures were destroyed. So the scale of this, I think, is really unprecedented. And the restaurants that have kind of risen up to feed their communities, to fundraise for restaurants that have been closed are really remarkable. And they're also in need of our support because doing things like giving away food to people in need, you know, comes at a cost, paying your staff, even when you don't have a restaurant to open. So I think in addition to all of the great things that you'll link to from the conversation with Emily, will also include one of her newsletters that is a really good source of the ways that different restaurants are getting involved in feeding people or looking for support themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll link to places to donate and just resources in the show notes. And just speaking with a lot of folks in the industry in Los Angeles, you know, January and February are traditionally the slowest times of the year. And this fire has been really impacting business tremendously. And I think just a simple, if you're in Southern California, you know, dining out and supporting your local restaurants, this is a very important time to do that. And really, Emily has so many recommendations about Los Angeles in this conversation. And, you know, just go out there and support, and honestly, take a trip to LA. It's a beautiful place, and you will want to go after listening to Emily. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Emily Wilson, welcome to This Is Taste. What is up?
Not too much. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to chat with you. We've known each other for years and years. You used to live here in New York. You live in LA now. And you published The Angel, which to me is such an essential read in LA. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
It's like, to me, and I've linked to it in our Friday newsletter, and it's like unique because you're putting a lot of work into it as a Substack. And there are, I think, few city-centric, food-centric, restaurant-centric Substacks in this country. So from the jump, are you, is this like a business for you? Is this like, how's it going?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it is a business. It's going really well. I think for me, it felt important to be able to just like fully commit myself to it. I still, you know, write for other publications here and there. But I think once I really like settled into life in LA, I just, like, I fell in love with the food scene. I feel like I fell in love with the food scene a long time ago, just from visiting LA growing up.
Yeah.
My family's out there and visiting it over the years. And once like 2 years after I moved there, I felt really settled, and there was just so many stories that I wanted to do, and I felt like within like the existing food media landscape out in LA, like in New York, there's so many more publications, but there just weren't enough opportunities for me to cover local food like at the rate that I wanted to do it and in the format I wanted to do it, which was a lot of these kind of profiles.
Mm-hmm.
And so it felt like the only way to really like scratch that itch was to do my own thing. And, Substack, I think, was the obvious vehicle for it.
Are you able to grow audience like through I guess through social, getting out some of the links, but also just like being known as a place for really high quality writing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've taken a pretty organic approach at this point, which is kind of nice. Like it's nice to do it at the beginning because I can really get a sense of like my engagement is super high, and I know that everyone who is reading The Angel like found it in a pretty organic way. I haven't done a ton of like big marketing pushes around it. But yeah, it's grown like at a pretty good rate.
Cool.
And I feel like it's just growing faster and faster, and more people know about it in LA. And I think there's so many people who love and care about food in LA. And if all those people subscribe to The Angel, then I think I'm in a really good place.
It's a natural fit for the city with so many great stories to tell. I love the profiles. We're going to get into a lot of the stories that you've covered over the couple years you've had The Angel. But first, you are back in your hometown and you're off the plane. Like, where do you like to go in terms of like your classic New York spots? Like, what are yours?
Yeah. I always like to go to S&P. Yeah. That's one of my favorites. I love their matzo ball soup. And their 50-50 sandwich, which is the one with, with tuna and egg salad.
Tuna egg combo. Love that order.
Very good. I always go to Long Island Bar in Brooklyn Heights.
Yeah.
I think they just do classic cocktails so well. I love the vibe there. I feel like there's nothing like that in LA.
Yeah.
And so I love to go there. And then the other one I'll say that's really been part of my rotation recently is the Commerce Inn.
Oh yeah.
I think the Commerce Inn is slept on.
Yeah, very much so.
Because everyone's trying to get into Via Carota and East Sodi. And I think the Commerce Inn got a bad review in the New York Times early on, and it just kind of like fell off the map for people. But it's very, very, very good, and I think you're getting the same kind of service and even the same kind of cooking styles you get at their other restaurants. But it's just like an American
and they've got cool furniture there.
It's cool, yeah. It's that like cool shaker inspired thing going on. But you can like walk in on most nights, and my parents are in the West Village. That's where I stay, and so that's become a regular spot.
A great tip for West Village, and Via Carota is impossible to get into. My goodness, rightly so.
Yeah, it's great. I love Via Carota.
Yeah, I mean, but there's like a lot of cool restaurants. Like, okay, so on the other side, New York's got a lot of new spots, and we will get into a few of your thoughts on New York versus LA. I couldn't resist, but are there any new places you visited on this trip that like you want to talk about, you're interested in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, I think everyone's talking about it, but I did really, really love Bridges.
Yeah.
To me, it just feels kind of like what a cutting edge restaurant in 2024 should be like or should feel like. I think the food is super inventive. The space is stunning and also like feels fresh and new. Service is great.
Did you call Faye for the Resi?
Did I call Faye?
Yeah,
of course.
You had to. It's a tough table book. Eliza shared some thoughts on that recently, and I've not been, so
it's good. It's great. I also loved Borgo.
Yeah, Borgo's great.
Borgo is super good. To me, it just feels like Andrew Tarlow came to Manhattan, and it's like very elegant, sophisticated. Yeah. I went to Chrissy's.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You went to Chrissy's. What's the line looking like these days?
Yesterday I went on a Monday at 2:45.
Yeah.
No line. Yeah. Got my pie in 10 minutes.
I feel like that's definitely the move. And like any buzzy restaurant, there'll be like days when there's big lines, but then of course you'll catch that middle period. 2:40 is a great time.
Totally. I mean, that's the nice thing. I think when I'm here in New York, I feel like I can go to places like on the off hours, which I mean, we'll talk about the New York LA thing, but I think just the game of being able to go to new spots or popular spots in New York is like, it's exhausting.
Oh, for sure. We feel it every day when we're talking about food on the show and generally absorbing, all the great reviewing and all the great content It's really hard to stay up on restaurants. Back to Christie's, what's your take on the pizza? Be honest.
It's great. I think it's really, really good. It's super. I feel like he really dials in the traits of a New York slice, like the crispy bottom and like the perfect sort of sauce to cheese ratio. And I think it's very successful.
Well, check out the episode with Brooks Headley and Chris. You know, we get into that pie and really, it's one of my favorite new restaurants of the year. I think he's doing tremendous work for a very minimal idea. It's not like it's flashy by any means.
Totally. And they have a whole I mean, it's like you can see it's a tiny little spot, but there's like, I don't know, 5 people in the back making pizza. You can kind of see it all happening, which is cool.
I've found The Angel to be a publication that does many things and many things well. So credit to you. You offer a lot of great service. So there's restaurants in your plug section, which are over the weekends, and you have friends share 4 or 5 favorite spots. You also have some great lists. You also have these deeply reported profiles with great photography. So let me ask you in general, why start the publication?
So I think sort of like what I was saying before, I just had a lot of just kind of energy and appetite for just really like committing myself to the LA food beat. And I think as a freelance writer, it's just hard to do that in a local way. If you're not, working for Eater or working for Infatuation or, whatever the local food media publications are. So that's sort of why I did it. But also I think, even within those existing publications, there's not as much like profile writing anymore as we know. And I think that that's just a format that I really wanted to also kind of experiment with and commit myself to. And just I wanted to be able to go deep on people and not always have a certain angle around it being new or important in some specific way right now. And it just allowed me the freedom to do that. And I think also like my partner, David, is a photographer. He was excited about, and then it made it easy because we could collaborate on it. And I feel like it made it feel like a real thing with the photos.
Yeah.
And so that it all sort of came together.
I'm glad you articulated what the profiles mean and why you're not married to it being new or noteworthy. And really, I love the profile of Vanessa Anderson, the grocery goblin who has visited 100 grocery stores across Los Angeles. Like, how did you find Vanessa and what made you want to profile her?
Actually, a friend of mine who manages this amazing coffee shop in Montrose called How's It Going to End, he plugged Vanessa as his person when he did plugs on The Angel. And I had been familiar with her before because she has a great Google Maps list that another friend of mine had shared with me, and it's basically international grocery stores. And so I started, I'm not like big into TikTok, but I started watching some of her TikToks after Matthew had plugged her. When I met her after, like for a coffee, I found out she'd only been in LA for a year and a half. And then I was just like, okay, I love this person. I love what she's doing because she got to LA and she just dove in kind of head first and like really has been exploring the city through this lens that makes a ton of sense, I think, especially in such like a diverse city like LA and where there are, like different communities like dispersed all throughout the city and international grocery stores everywhere. And I think, sort of to relate it back to The Angel too, like in terms of like my hunger to kind of cover the LA food scene, like she clearly had that too.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt sort of like a kinship with her in that sense. And I think, for anyone who like, I'm sure you can relate to this, like loves just walking around a grocery store, seeing what's going on. Like anyone who has had that feeling, I think can get excited about what she's doing.
I'm glad you drew the comparison between her work and The Angel because that was kind of where I was going because I feel like you both share that indie media spirit and scrappiness, but like this is as good as you could do. I mean, these are great. Your publications are doing incredible work. And I mean, do you feel like the independent route for this publication offers you a potential for growth that maybe like a large publication like the LA Times or Eater doesn't?
Yes, at least in the sense of, my work, at least if I was going to be a freelancer,
Yeah.
I think, yes, it allows me as an individual a lot more potential for growth maybe than if I was working at like Eater or the LA Times. I also just think the big thing too is just like the freedom.
Yeah.
The freedom to do, like if I'm pitching a story, editor has to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to write something for the Angel, I can write that thing for the Angel. And that's nice.
It's nice, and it allows you to be as free as possible, which I think creates this is how Eater started. It started as an independent blog covering New York City restaurants in 2005. And to me, this is like a new wave of media, and I think it's happening in all sorts of topics, not just food. But you see it with like the newsletter-based media. You see it at Puck. You see it at Substack Indies. And to me, this is some of the most exciting writing. Love LA Times and Eater. We've had those editors on, and a big fan because LA is such a great city. But I'm just so impressed with continuing to do it at a high level. And I hope folks listening to this show, if you don't live in LA or New York and you live in a city that has a scene, which I'm sure it does, maybe like look at the Angel and do your own version of it. I mean, that leads to my question. Would you ever think about expanding it to other cities? Do you think about scale that way? I mean, this is like becoming a bit of a media conversation, but this is
Totally.
when two editors get in the room. We got to talk about it.
I think like maybe, I guess
Yeah.
is the answer to that. For me, the Angel is very much about LA. But that's not to say I couldn't, I personally have always been really inspired by Vittles and what Jonathan Nunn does in London.
For sure.
And I think that he's done some work where he spent some time in Paris and has, reported there. And that makes sense, right? Because you can take a train to Paris from London in 2 hours. Like, I think there are ways, like, on the one hand, I'm from New York. So I spent a lot of time in New York. Is there room for the Angel to cover New York? I don't know. Maybe. I think my feeling is that New York doesn't need it as much as LA does.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think as I continue, when I started the Angel, I think I was just sort of throwing things at the wall. But now it's very clear to me that like what makes an Angel story, it just has to have like an LA angle. Whether I feel like when I'm drawn to a person or a place that I want to profile, it's like, what does it say about LA as a city, or why does this work in LA specifically, or how is this person inspired by LA, like Vanessa Grocery Goblin. And I think so that feels super intrinsic to the project. So I don't know exactly how it grows beyond LA, but that's not to say it can't.
You got to just find the right person, right, who has this shared passion with you. And I just would love to read a version of this in another city. And listen, write in if you have your own version that I'm not following. I tried to follow as much city local media I can find, but I think there's a huge I think there's a huge potential. All right, so this is the New York versus LA portion. I have some questions. I have some comments. But first, what's the biggest difference that you observed about the day-to-day restaurant going in each city?
Yeah. I think New York is a city that's always obsessed with the new, and there's like constant change. And as we know, like reservation culture has gotten sort of out of control in New York. In LA, I think it's just slower. There are a lot more people who like stick to their neighborhoods. I think people who become regulars at restaurants a little bit more there. And it's just slower. I mean, it's been a very slow year for openings in LA. I also think that the average person who cares about food and restaurants in LA dines in a little bit more of a diverse manner maybe than the average person that cares about food and restaurants in New York, because I think if you care about food and restaurants in LA, like you're dining in Thai Town, you're going to Koreatown, you're going to the San Gabriel Valley. And I think in New York, there's a little bit more of that drive to try the new spots and like be in on that.
Love that answer. It makes a lot of sense. And because of the geography of LA, of course, you have to really make a plan versus, coming out of a movie or a concert, looking on Resi or Open Table, finding that one spot and then just doing it.
Yeah.
Like that spontaneity does not happen in LA. Was that hard to get used to? Or maybe it was liberating.
It was liberating.
Yeah.
I think it was liberating. I like it. I really like, I think I was ready for a change of pace, and LA very much is that.
So in LA, is there like a scene where you will bump into friends? I mean, this happens in New York with some frequency. Like you go to Time Again or Corner Store or Bridges. You mentioned that place. It seems like if you are in New York and dining out or going out a lot, you'll run into someone It happens a lot. But does this happen in LA? And like, where is this gathering in LA?
Yeah, it totally happens in LA. Right now, the spot is called Bar Secco, although I think it's now just called Secco.
Oh.
It's a wine bar in Silver Lake, like in Sunset Junction, and it's just like a scene. I think before that, like Cafe Triste was like super mobbed.
Yeah.
Like Stir Crazy was sceney for a bit. Now I think it's really settled into itself nicely. El Prado was like crazy. It's really like
Prado,
the wine
sure.
bars
Yeah.
really are kind of where the scene plays out in LA for whatever reason. I think the wine bar will not die.
No, definitely not. I mean, and also you've got like outdoor dining all the time, which
Totally.
has something to do with some of these spaces have outdoor
Mhm.
options, so to speak.
But in terms of like me going to places to run into people, like I like to go to Stir Crazy. I feel like I run into people I know there. I also just love the food. I love the wine. I love the vibe there. But honestly, like I go to the Hollywood Farmers Market to run into people. That's like my social scene. Like I run into people all the time at LA Grocery and Cafe, which is a new like curated grocery store with prepared food. That's great. Like Cafe Tropical, which is awesome. Daytime spot.
Yeah.
Those are some of the places that are more run-in centric for me than like, your big restaurants.
You were early in Yang's Kitchen, by the way.
Yeah, Yang's Kitchen
Oh my
is
God.
so good.
I went last month and we're going to be out there interviewing the team there soon. So
Nice.
I'm excited to catch up with them. That was incredible. That was like one of my favorite. I just said it as a breakfast.
I love the Japanese breakfast.
Japanese breakfast is amazing.
I actually just went to a place in Greenpoint called Dashi Akune. Akune. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. And they do the Japanese breakfast there. You get like a piece of fish, you pick your like simmered vegetables, and you pick your tea, and you get like a perfect little bowl of rice. So I love that. I love that way to start the day. I hope that becomes something that's like more and more popular.
Definitely. I think there's definitely a trend towards, a savory breakfast or more of a Japanese style or East Asian style breakfast. Yeah, definitely Yang's Kitchen. Big question, point blank. Please, you have to answer this. Does LA have better pizza than New York right now?
No.
You said it very quickly.
LA had a moment with the pizza scene, especially I think coming out of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And there's great pizza to be had in LA, no doubt. I think that it's sort of the moment has cooled and like LA needs to kind of pick it back up.
Oh, wow.
Whereas I think New York has continued to be sort of like explosive on the pizza front. I feel like the kind of new wave slice shops that started in New York it just keeps going and going and going. I think also, and this is sort of key to me being a New Yorker, being born and raised in New York, is that New York is a place where pizza is so accessible.
Yeah. Like,
especially you were talking about earlier, like, you leave a show or something, you leave the movie theater and you want to stop in somewhere. It's like, where can you get quick food pizza? LA, like, I love Quarter Sheets to death. I especially love the desserts there. Pizza is super great. I love Aaron and Hannah. But it's so popular. It's so tiny. It's hard to get in there. And then it's like they're only open, 4 or 5 days a week. Like, and I love this other spot in LA called Apollonia's.
Yeah.
That to me is like the best New York slice that exists in LA, but super limited hours. So it's just it's not regular like it is here. It's not like a part of the food culture in the way that it is here, I think.
I love the honesty and I've had great pizza in LA.
There's great pizza.
Didn't realize it was cooling off, but it makes sense. I think like there was a big moment post-pandemic with a lot of like pop-ups and like Shins. Is Shins still happening?
Yeah, Shins is still happening.
Yeah.
There definitely was a moment. I think it's just not really at the, like, pizza isn't like the top conversation
Definitely
anymore.
not. I have to shout out Danny Boys though, my guy, Dan Holzman.
Yeah.
New place in Westwood. Really good. You got to go there.
I know. I do need to go there.
It's really good. All right. So LA is a city of enclaves and, this incredible place to write about food. And really, Emily, through your discovery and through just putting miles on your car, where have you kind of stumbled upon in LA that maybe our listeners don't quite know about? We hear about Thai Town, Koreatown, and we know some of these enclaves, but there's many more within LA, Orange County, further up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I recently have been loving like Gardena and Torrance, which is like a big Japanese enclave.
Yeah.
And it's cool because it feels like it's been a Japanese enclave for a long time. Since like I think like pre-World War II, it was like
Mhm.
one of the only areas that like Japanese people were allowed to buy property. And then like Toyota and Honda eventually had their headquarters there. So there's been Japanese people living in that area for a long time. So you can go to these Japanese restaurants that have been around for like 40 years. There's like mochi shops that opened in 1960. There's like Tokyo Central, which is like Stu Leonard's for, Japanese
So cool. Yeah.
groceries. I love the spot Otofuku, which is a soba shop.
So cool. I got to go there earlier this year for the first time.
It's great. It's
So
like,
great.
it's kind of, it's when you get there, you almost can't find it. Like you feel like you're in Japan and then you're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's here.
You enter through the kitchen. I mean, there's like dudes with soju bottles with like their name on the masking tape.
Yeah, it's
Who
great.
go there every week. We chatted up a couple next door, and they're like have a weekly date there. Great
It's
place.
awesome.
Yeah.
The places feel really old.
Yeah.
And I like that. It feels like there's a lot of history to be had. There's also this sushi spot called Sake Sushi, which makes like these beautiful packaged sushi boxes to go. I forget what style of sushi it is, but yeah, that's a really, really cool area. And I've been finding myself there a lot.
On that note, how do you think about sushi in LA? I know like Bill Addison has written really like I would say completely about it for the LA Times.
Mhm.
I love reading his words, but it seems like a moving target for me when I try to go. I've got my usual spots.
Yeah.
But there's always just like a sense of there's a new counter opening to try out.
Totally. I think for me, I love a good omakase experience. It's not something I seek out that often. I'm always looking for like that really good kind of casual sushi experience. There's this place I've been obsessed with called Yama Sushi Marketplace that's
Okay.
been in the San Gabriel Valley for many years. And they have like you pick your fish and they slice it into sashimi fresh for you and they make amazing rolls. So like I love that kind of casual opportunity. But yeah, I have there's a spot in Westwood called Eshigo that has also been around for a while and it's kind of under the radar. No one's ever there and it's amazing. And like I always tell people to go there. So yeah, you have your spots.
Yeah.
There's also this spot Mori Nozomi, which I wrote about in The Angel, which is like an 8-seat sushi counter in Sawtelle, all female team,
Cool.
female sushi chef. And that was like one of my favorite dining experiences of the year because it just feels very special and different.
Man, Sawtelle has changed in the past decade. I mean,
Yeah.
it feels like there's openings every time I go back, and what a great strip to have Japanese cuisine, but also there's some great Thai there as well.
Yeah, totally. I feel like I'm an East Sider, so I
Yeah.
don't like. I get to the West Side when I can, for sure. I think I go to the West Side more than most
Yeah.
East Siders. But all my friends who live on the West Side like love Sawtelle.
Yeah. Let's talk about coffee in LA. I think it's an important topic
Mm-hmm.
because I've said in the show, I've done some events out there at various coffee shops and with I've interviewed plenty of people in coffee. It's like the best city in America for coffee. I think the weather has something to do with that, especially with the cold drinks coming out of Dayglow and G&B and like places in between. But you are on top of it. You cover coffee really well in The Angel. So Emily, give us a little like update about what's happening at LA Coffee right now.
Yeah, I think there were actually a lot of new coffee shop openings this year, which was sort of
Yeah.
fun. There's this place near my house in Los Feliz called Camel Coffee, which is from South Korea. I'm sure you're familiar.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the lines have been noted.
Yeah. So that's sort of a
Very
fun new
cool.
addition. There was this place Concierge Coffee that opened from Berlin, I think, in the Arts
Mhm.
District. My favorite new coffee shop opening is this place called How's It Going to End? It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's like a beautiful space in Montrose in a former dry cleaners, and they have like all like native plants in the front
Yeah.
yard, and it's a super cool space. The people who are doing the coffee are super legit. The founder Michelle started Dinosaur back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
She sold Dinosaur. Now she's doing How's It Going to End? But that's cool. It's also in this kind of like little suburban part of LA, like just above Glendale. So I wasn't super familiar with that area before that, but it's not that far.
Yeah.
So I like it there a lot. And then, yeah, I mean, the coffee is great. Kumquat always does an amazing
I
job.
love Kumquat. I've been there a number of times. Great roasting and just a cool like hang.
Yeah. And they do like 5 different types of cold brew there, which is kind of amazing. Like that feels very like LA.
Intense. I mean,
but
definitely.
also intense.
I
Yeah.
love that there's like varietal cold brews available. Very cool that they do that.
Totally. It's like not like most people, I was just talking about this with David earlier today, like most people don't care that much or understand that much about coffee. That most people drink coffee, but most people just whatever, go to Starbucks or just do something quick and easy. But if you want to go there, Kumquat is the spot to like really go there, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And you've got Go Get 'Em Tiger. You've got the original Intelligentsia.
Totally.
You've got Nicely Able is always
oh my God,
doing
he's
cool
amazing.
stuff.
Yeah. His cappuccinos, like if you live on the West Side or you are on the West Side, stop into Hooked.
Yeah,
It's his
Hooked.
pop-up at Dudley. He's there like most days, most mornings. And it's nice too because it's inside of a restaurant. So it's a nice place to just be able to hang out during the day. And yeah, his cappuccinos are strong, but they're very, very good.
He's got a beautiful touch with cold drinks, and he's been on the show before. Love Nicely, and then of course Dayglow.
Yes.
Gotta give Dayglow some props.
Yeah. I think we've DM'd about this, but I am not out at coffee shops as much anymore because I now have an X Bloom.
Oh, I see.
Which is a great coffee machine.
You're
I like
taking it inside.
And I took it inside.
Yeah.
And we get our coffee beans from Dayglow.
Yeah, I mean, the wall is always a changing variety of incredible coffee from around the world.
Yeah, they do a great job.
What is up with Sam's Place? And I say that with respect, a little skepticism. It seems like my read is like it's a restaurant with no social media that tries to like be off the radar, but for some reason it's been written about by literally everybody. So like mission not accomplished. Am I being unfair?
No, I hear that. I mean, I think in some ways, yeah, like maybe not being on social media could end up being counterintuitive because then, I don't know, people feel like it's on them to get the word out there or it's like, oh, like there's a secret spot, right?
That's what I read from it.
But yeah, I mean, I've heard that. I haven't been back in a couple weeks.
Couple weeks?
And I like to go.
Whoa. Are you like, is this like in the rotation then?
I guess it's probably been more than a couple weeks because I just don't live in Highland Park. If I lived over there, I think I would go a lot.
Yeah.
But I was going a lot in the early days. And I've heard that on the weekends it's like crazy now.
Tell us a little bit about what that restaurant is. Like, what kind of food? Literally, I don't know much about it. I just know the name, so I'm very curious.
Yeah, so it's part of the reason that I've been compelled by it and why I think it's been successful as well is I think it's basically a bar, but there's food. So you could have a full dinner, but like you belly up to the bar and you order that way. So it's casual, like it's anti-committal in the way that a restaurant is not. But they have great wings, they have a great salad, they have a great sweet potato dish. All the food is super good. I think it's like, to me, it kind of represents what a lot of people actually just want out of a restaurant experience, which is that level of casualness that you can't always find in a dinner restaurant. Or like that amount of food you can't normally get at a bar and like that quality of food you can't normally get at a bar. And I honestly think like from a financial standpoint, you know, we talk about how it's never been harder to open a restaurant. And I think having a bar with food with like less labor costs, less overhead, at least in their case, I know they had like a pretty good rent deal or something. I think as a business model, it sort of makes sense. And I think that maybe we're going to start seeing more of that. So I think it, and then, you know, famously, they're not on Instagram because they just don't want to be.
And that is their right, and I respect it. I'm not trying to snark on their ability. I mean, it seems like slightly there's maybe a model where you get people to talk about something that's underground a little bit more than if you're above ground and blasting out like Etra or whatever, some other, you know, flashy place that always has. I'm not trying to pick on any places, but
Etra's great.
Yeah, Etra's great. I've heard. Yeah,
I think also it's funny, right? Because if you open a restaurant and you're on Instagram and you're doing a great job at Instagram and people are drawn to you because of that, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But even if you're not, like if people start talking about it, it's gonna blow up when it's new anyways. it'll be interesting to see how them choosing not to be on Instagram will kind of pan out as they kind of settle into life as a bar, right? Because at the end of the day, they don't have a way to communicate things outwards. And I think that should be interesting to see how that works for
Yeah.
them.
Well, I hope to visit. I can't judge it until I go.
Yeah,
So maybe
you should
I'll
check
go.
it out.
I'm going to ask you for your plugs. We're just going to go there. Because
Okay.
plugs is like my favorite. On Saturday, I'm like, okay, who's the new person in plugs? What are the new spots? I learn a lot from it. But so like just to review, and this is going off memory, it's a restaurant, a bar, a thing, a person.
A restaurant, a bar, an ingredient, a shop, a person, and a treat.
And a treat. Okay, Emily, you're on, and I know you are the editor of this publication, and you certainly ask people to give you this information out every week. But on this show, what are your plugs?
I would say my restaurant is probably Dunsmore, because it's the restaurant that I recommend to people the most when they're visiting from out of town and want to go somewhere cool and special.
This is so interesting. Can I just interrupt and just say that is like the most recommended restaurant for me when I visit. I've been going a bit this year. And I look at the menu and I'm like, do I want to eat like New Orleans style in LA? Unfair, potentially. And then I end up going to Bub and Grandma's next door.
Yeah.
Unfair, I know.
For dinner or just for lunch.
I guess it's lunch. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe I should think about Dunsmore for dinner, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I think to me, it's like it reads like Southern food, but it's sort of more than that.
Or Southern, right? Not New Orleans.
Yeah. So the chef, Brian Dunsmore, like his ancestors in Colorado. He grew up in the South, but he's like very inspired by pre-Gilded Age recipes, like all these old cookbooks and stuff.
Yeah.
So there's sort of a lot. It's like American heritage cuisine is sort of
Mhm.
the way he describes it. But he has this big like hearth and everything is cooked over wood fire, and there's all these restrictions in the kitchen. So like there aren't really machines in the kitchen, save for like one stovetop or something.
So cool. So cool. I got to go.
And that's cool. Like,
That's cool.
this sort of cliche of constraints breed creativity. I just think that really, really happens there. And it's a beautiful room.
I've peeked in for sure. And I guess my timeline was off because they only do dinner, right?
Only dinner.
So I guess I go at the wrong time, then I end up going to Bub and Grandma's. Anyways, great pick. I got to go. What is your bar?
My bar... it's funny. People always get tripped up on this one the most because a lot of people are like, well, I don't really drink, which is fine.
Yeah.
Because I think my thing with plugs, I want people to just use it as like a loose category.
Yeah.
It could be a coffee bar. I think you picked
When I did it, I picked definitely a coffee bar. Yeah. Or 2 or 3. I can't remember.
It could be bar seats at a restaurant.
Yeah. Right. It's interpretive. That's why it's so fun. I love it.
Yeah. I'm thinking, what would my bar be? I mean, I have said Stir Crazy in the past because I have done plugs before. To me, though, Stir Crazy has very much evolved past a wine bar.
Yeah.
It really is a restaurant. What is my bar?
On the spot. I know this is not easy.
It is tricky, but I'm going to come back to that.
Okay.
Ingredient. I've really been into buckwheat recently.
Cool. Yeah.
Like baking with buckwheat flour.
Yeah.
I'm really into making ice cream. I made like a toasted buckwheat ice cream the other day
Very
that I really
cool.
liked.
What's the setup for ice cream at your house?
I just have like the classic Cuisinart 1.5 quart ice cream maker.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's like the best, like LA, I feel like is a great place to have dinner parties. And it's the best like party trick at a dinner party where it's like, oh, I've made this ice cream.
Yeah. I made like buckwheat ice cream. Yo. Like,
Yeah.
Let's go. Okay.
So yeah, I would say buckwheat.
Person.
I
know. Like you can't hide from this one. There's a microphone in your face.
I guess I would have to say David, my partner.
Yeah,
who's the
there you go.
photographer of The
All right.
Angel, David Grzev.
Okay.
That's how I say his last name. And I mean, The Angel really like wouldn't be able to happen without him. I think one of the things of publishing independently is I don't have an editor.
Yeah.
I know some Substacks have editors, which is great. But the way we do an Angel story, oftentimes I'm doing the interview at the same time that he's shooting, which I really like working that way
Yeah.
because I think you really capture someone
It's a cool energy.
while they're telling their story, while they're in their element. And I feel like we do a good job at making people feel comfortable. It like doesn't feel like too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, he reads over the stories, makes sure I don't forget anything, catches all my typos, and I think that the photography really makes the stories come to life.
Your treat.
My treat, I'm going to say right now, a cinnamon roll, because I'm currently doing cinnamon roll research for a cinnamon roll guide
Oh,
on
cool.
the Angel.
Love that.
Just
I'll
because
look for
like
that.
during the holidays, I always think about cinnamon rolls. So my brain is in cinnamon roll land.
What makes a good one for you?
I think it's either really classic and done really well, or there's like a fun spin on it and it's creative.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Into that.
And obviously just extremely delicious.
Extremely. And like, of course, there's like that middle of the part of it is substantial.
Yeah.
Because, you know, in the middle, in the heart of it, I don't know, like maybe like I'm thinking of like artichoke. It's like when it's too small, you're like, there's no satisfaction.
No. Yeah. It has to be like, there's this baker named Kate Pepper who lives and works in Ojai. And she has this sort of like, sometimes she bakes, sometimes she doesn't. She has a newsletter. You can subscribe. Like, she's sort of hard to catch, but she makes amazing bread, and her cinnamon rolls are the best I've ever had. Yeah.
You make it up to Ojai a bit?
I do. I love Ojai.
Me too.
I think that Ojai is like a very peaceful place. There's a cool food scene. The pastry case at the Duchess is amazing.
It's amazing. It was better than the meal at the Duchess. I'll just say that. I love that pastry case. And Meditation Mount.
Meditation Mount is,
Shout.
I mean, beautiful.
It's so good.
Meditation Mount at sunset is, you got to do it. Pinyon also is an amazing
I've
restaurant.
heard. I wasn't able to visit Pinyon when I was there, but okay, back to bar.
The reason that this is so hard too is because LA doesn't, it just doesn't have the same bar scene, I think, as New York does.
There's no more Varnish either.
There's no more Varnish. Although I actually never made it to the Varnish.
Oh, really? Well, back in my drinking days, that was like quite the place. I felt that was a very cool, you know, for me, 2009, 10 kind of place.
Yeah, totally. I really like the bar above Eleni Oyster Bar in Silver Lake.
Yeah.
This is sort of like a rare model, and it's been around for a while, so people love it and people know it and they go there, but I feel like sometimes people forget about it. But downstairs there's the restaurant, and then upstairs there's a bar.
Yeah.
And you can get like the shrimp cocktail and the French fries. They do great shrimp cocktail and great French fries, and they have a full bar. And yeah, it's a great date spot. It's a nice place to just like pop in and get a drink and a snack if that's what
I like the vibe up there too.
Yeah.
It's got there's a lot of light up there.
Yeah.
No, I know that space exactly. That's very cool. Do we cover them all? I feel like we did.
Shop.
Okay. Interesting. A great shopping town for food-ish and food adjacent.
A great shopping town. I mean, there's so many great international grocery stores, obviously. Tokyo Central, I was just talking about, in Torrance is amazing. But the shop that I go to more than any other is McCall's. It's a butcher and fishmonger that used to be in Los Feliz, now is in Atwater, which is not that far, but is now not in my neighborhood anymore, which is sad. It's like on the higher end, like you're definitely like paying the top prices, but like everything they do is so great. Great steaks, like great chicken, great fish, and all their pantry items are great. They sell, like, they just sort of are selling like all the best things from a lot of the like local food makers in LA. And if you want to just make a really nice dinner for yourself at home, like McCall's is a good place to start.
Very cool, Rec. Okay, thank you for doing plugs on the spot. Lots of cool places to check out. I want to ask you about this Some Meals map on Google Maps. It's a public map, or is it only for subscribers?
It's a public map, yeah.
It has like 1,100 spots on it.
Yeah.
Emily, you've done the work. Oh my God. So let me ask you about this map. Like, how do you operate a 1,100 location Google map? I mean, is it just like every time you go somewhere you add it?
So every time I go somewhere and like
Oh,
experience.
it's only for likes.
I add it.
Dang.
So it's all like the way I explain it is it's all the places that I've vetted, like all the spots that I've been to and I like. That said, I started building this map. Like I had a Substack back in the early days of Substack that I think that's how we met because you started reading it.
Yeah.
It was like very novice. I'm not recommending anyone to go read it. But it was called Some Meals. And
Yeah.
and I basically every place that I wrote about on that early newsletter, I put on my Some Meals map. And then eventually it became something where, like, for example, I went to Bridges the other night, loved it. It's on the map now. But it's like all over the globe.
Are you doing editorial? There's like write-ups with it?
No.
It's just the point. It's just like the
I thought
Emily
about
approval.
it, but yeah,
Oh.
it's just the Emily Google. And honestly, like I've met people who like follow the map. I wish Google let you see how many people follow a map.
Right.
Because it doesn't, for whatever reason, if anyone on Google
I mean, Google
is
is notoriously terrible at social networks. They've tried to launch it a million times and they just can't build community around Google products. Like it's
crazy because maps to me, it's like it's so untapped. Like I used to work at my first job out of college was at Foursquare. And like Foursquare was the thing for me. I loved it. I loved checking in. I loved keeping places like maps and location data and all that kind of stuff, like lists. Like I love that kind of stuff.
Dude, I was like user 3000 on Foursquare. I have it in my app. It's like there's actually a number, and I still use Swarm.
You do.
I'm still
Amazing.
a Swarm guy.
I'm glad for that.
They're sunsetting one of the two apps, and it makes me extremely sad because I use it
that.
all the time. I use literally, and I like keep it pretty private, but like I use Swarm. And like it's literally what we've just talked about, but apparently didn't work.
I know. Because now my solutions for Swarm are my map, like Google Maps, and then the other thing that I love is like Apple and Google Photos, like being able to search on your maps for the place that you work. Because I take so many pictures of places that I can find places that way.
Yeah, we've created our own metadata for our own lives, and it's our own graph, so to speak.
Yeah.
A grid. Love this talk. Okay. On This Is Taste, we ask guest brother discerning taste. So to close this interview, here's a little rapid fire, fast and furious taste check. Emily, are you ready?
I'm ready.
The best fruit.
It's got to be a perfectly ripe Hachia persimmon.
You are in persimmon gang hive. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I saw persimmons at a grocery store today in New York, but it really was just not something that was in my life until I moved to LA. Persimmon season is very much a thing in LA.
Yes.
And everyone who's had an unripe Hachia persimmon knows that it's like the worst thing in the world to eat. Like sucks like all the moisture out of your mouth, and it feels like you have drinking a cup of poison. But a ripe Hachia persimmon is it's like there's just nothing else like it.
The worst vegetable.
I would say bell pepper.
Yeah.
I just think it's irrelevant at this point.
Yeah,
like
totally.
It's like we have Jimmy Nardello's, we have like what's it new, like habanados is our thing now. Like all the amazing chili peppers. Like I'm here for peppers, but the bell pepper to me has no use anymore.
I agree. It's and especially on pizza. Stop.
Yeah,
Stop.
Definitely not on the pizza.
Stop with that. The best dessert.
Honestly, just like a perfect, simple slice of chocolate cake.
Yeah. Have you done your cake roundup yet?
I haven't. I would love to. I feel like I have to be sparing with my, like, when you do like sugar intensive research, it like can actually make you go crazy, I feel like. But I do want to find like the best slices of chocolate cake in LA. So if anyone knows the answer to that, like please let me know.
There's like definitely a demand for that in LA. I feel like, every fucking writer's room, Hollywood type wants to waste time thinking about the best chocolate cake. And
totally.
That's one small example. I'm sure there's a lot of people in LA who want to know that.
I love also like just a simple cake. Like I think I'm here for like all the beautiful decorated tiered cakes. Like I think cakes have exploded in ways that are amazing. But just something like I was at Stissing House this weekend, the coconut cake there.
Oh, cool. Yeah, totally.
Like that to me, just like a thick slab of cake and like a frosting on top. That is a perfect cake too. So shout out to that cake.
That cake is always like hanging out like in the dining room, just like showing its head.
Yeah, it knows that it's what's up and that you're supposed to order it.
No doubt. And on the note of sugar research, I have to give my own plug to Mahira Rivers. She just did like the top 100 chocolate chip cookies in New York.
Incredible. Yes. I was just reading that. And I mean, I love her Substack. It's great. The amount of sweets that she eats, like I'm constantly impressed by it. And the chocolate chip project was super cool.
It was a very cool project. And Mahira is going to be writing our Friday newsletter occasionally starting in January. So
amazing. I'm excited.
Can't wait to have her on. Your favorite city outside America to visit for food?
Definitely London.
Yeah.
I love the London food scene. I love a pub. I love like a lot of these like modern British restaurants. I think also I love British desserts.
Oh, yeah.
Like custardy things.
Eton Messies.
Yes, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I also think like in terms of like the higher end restaurants, there's such diversity in cuisine, which is really cool. It's also like London is very spread out. Like in some ways, I think it's more like LA than it is like New York. So it feels like there's just endless places to go to.
Your favorite cookbook of all time?
Mina Stone, Cooking for Artists.
Oh, very cool book. Yeah. Love that.
I love that book. I always come back to it. It kind of like represents like how I want to cook at home. Super simple. Like I feel like that book always reminds me that cooking doesn't have to be so complicated.
Yeah.
And for someone like me or for us who go out to restaurants all the time, like I just want like simple, delicious, easy food when I'm home. And I always come back to that book.
A favorite recent cookbook discovery?
Because I have gotten so into making ice cream, probably one of my most used cookbooks is La Grata by Kitty Travers. Mm-hmm. She's a London-based ice cream maker.
It's a beautiful book. I think we published the U.S. version here.
It's great. Love that book.
Great book.
None of the recipes have ever failed me. And she has a very kind of like California sensibility to making ice creams and crafting flavors. So it feels like it's made for a ice cream maker in LA.
A restaurant you wish you could bring back from the dead?
It's got to be Florent.
Oh, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Did you go there as a kid?
I went there as a kid, yeah. I went there. It was like one of the first restaurants I think I went to.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, I remember my mom bringing me there and was like, you know, sort of telling me the lore of it. Yeah. And she was excited to introduce me to it. And I loved it. And now, like, I grew up so close to it, like just a few blocks south. So it bums me out that it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like, I wish it was like, because in the meatpacking, it's like, it was like the restaurant that kind of defined, or like was the heart and soul of the meatpacking.
Yeah, like 90s, 2000s. It closed in the mid 2000s, and absolutely like a pioneering restaurant.
Yeah.
French brasserie.
Yeah, and it's just such a New York spot.
Very
like
New York.
To me. So yeah, I wish that was still there selfishly also. And also a shout out to the original Suen.
Oh yeah, original Suen. Good call. I knew you'd come to play with that one. I love it. A few more. Your favorite bar?
It's got to be Long Island Bar.
Yeah, we went over that. We'll cut that one. Last one, your favorite sandwich?
Honestly, just like a turkey sandwich with cheddar cheese or Swiss cheese.
Good choice. Good
lettuce.
Choice. Yes.
A little bit of mayo.
Yep.
Dijon. On like maybe multigrain bread, great sourdough, even in like a wrap would be great. Yeah. Like that is the kind of sandwich that I grew up just going to delis, bodegas on the corner and getting. And special shout out actually to M&O Market on Thompson and Prince.
Oh, that's your one. That's your bodega.
They do fresh roasted turkey on their sandwich counter on Tuesday and Friday. Which makes it like a great deli to know about if you're into a turkey sandwich.
Are you gonna grab one?
Maybe. I might. Maybe on Friday. I also love like just a great tuna sandwich. But it's got to be the turkey sandwich ultimately.
Love that choice. Emily Wilson, what a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining This Is Taste.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Matt here. Eliza is still traveling, so it's monopod time. Last one went pretty well. Clayton, our producer, thank you for saving me from all of my my errors, my stutters. But we are here, or I am here to talk about the Fancy Food Show, which just went down in Las Vegas. I had a great time there. I got to interview Molly Baz on stage. at the show and talk about AO, which she's been on the show talking about it here, but talking about her new mayonnaise line, her flavored mayonnaise line. It was great. I got to catch up with Molly. I got to judge something. I'm not quite sure what it is. It's through SFA, Specialty Food Association. Trend spotting, that's what it's called. I was trend spotting, and this segment is a number of companies I got to visit with when I was on the floor in Las Vegas. So to set the scene, the Winter Fancy Food Show is a big show. It was held at the Las Vegas Convention Center, and rows and rows and rows of founders, big and small. Countries and cities and states have their own separate areas. New York State had a great presence. Italy, Japan. There was great presence from Wisconsin Cheese, our friends over there. And then there were small little pockets of it's like science fair time. It's like, here's my product. Hello. And I loved it. I love this energy in these rooms. I love walking shows. I've been to Expo West in Anaheim. I've done fancy food in New York. And this was my first time at the Winter Fancy Food Show. And I got to see a bunch of really cool new products I'm going to talk about. And I loved the energy. This is a very crowded, floor. People are passing by. The audience is it's buyers, it's media, it's folks from retail. Lots of folks who, and then other founders, people who are also trying to sell their stuff, looking at the competition. So each person that comes up to the booth to try a sample and talk about the products could be, the next big thing for these founders. And so I love that the energy level was so high, even on day 3. I got a lot of respect for these folks, schlepping all the way out to Vegas to show their new products. So the products I'm going to talk about range widely. There's some beverage in here, quite a bit of dairy, products from Hawaii, products from big name places, products from, small founders who are under 20 years old. There's some young founders here. And I just really had such a great time catching up with them. I'm just going to run down my list and talk a little bit about each. And I hope you can, visit their Instagram or website. I'm going to link to all the brands in the show notes so you can follow along. Many are available in retail, Whole Foods, Pop-Up Grocer in New York, Faire. If you're in the retail space, you can order some of these products on Faire, and also, of course, online. You can order direct. First, I'm not gonna really go in any order. There's no rhyme or reason. I'm just going off the list that I made. And so the first product I really enjoyed was called Joyous Non-Alcoholic Cabernet Sauvignon. So it was an NA wine. Had so many NA wines over the years, and very few hit me the way Joyous did. Really great tannins, really emblematic of a cab. It felt like I was not drinking a version of grape juice, which most NA wines taste like. Joyous, non-alcoholic. Love their product. Check it out. Next one, Spritz King Chipotle Smoky and Spice. Now, this could be a drink. It says Spritz in it. It is not. It is actually a spray bottle that you spray on meat after it's left the grill. Clever invention. I know it's not the first time this has been used, but I really liked these guys. The flavor profile was real. It felt there was some spice in there, and they were sampling and demoing. I love that. Next up, Tanglewood Ginger Spice Chai. Now, I got to know Ro Tam at the booth. Now, Ro runs Either Or, which is a chain of cafes in Portland. Great cafes by all accounts. I've not been, but I've heard great things about Either Or. But Tanglewood is this food service mostly, although they sell small bottles for retail, of ginger spice chai mix. And there's a lot of chais in the world. I actually saw probably 4 or 5 on the floor alone. But this one was a real highlight, very clean. It was less sweet than most, and I just really loved this product. It looks like they have a pretty big food service representation in the Pacific Northwest, but you can buy the bottles online. Next up, Maka Meats Veal Stock. Maka is a brand from Hawaii, and they had a really nice section of Hawaiian products at the show, and I got to meet with many of the founders. We were just joking. I met some folks who listened to the podcast, which is great. Actually, throughout the show, I met lots of you listeners out there. Thank you for coming up and saying, "Hey, I really enjoyed that. I love when you give me feedback and advice and everything in between." Maka Meats Veal Stock is a really cool product because it really is giving terroir to Hawaii, which, I don't think in the lower 48 we're getting much of. Of course, there's a meat production, there's a beef farming industry in Hawaii, but most of it stays in Hawaii. So to have a veal stock, which is much more easy to transport than, frozen beef, is a really cool thing. And I met the founders. They have farms throughout Hawaii, in Kauai, in Molokai, Waimea. It's all over Hawaii. And I loved the story they told me about how this veal stock is finding itself into really nice kitchens in Southern California. And the idea that Hawaii can have a terroir that is, of course, we know the fruit, but actually on the beef side, there's terroir, and this is a product that you should seek out as a chef, was very cool. That's Mauka Meats Veal Stock. Next up, Bell Chev Spreadable Goat Cheese. Genius product. We know goat cheese is usually in the logs, and when we see those logs, we think, how the hell am I going to cut the log? How am I going to eat half the log? Messy stuff. I think we've just been kind of living with the logs for a while. But I love that this product exists. It has a really cool story. They're from Elkmont, Alabama, and it's a very spreadable product in a resealable container. And I loved it. It was a really nice chev. It was very light. It tasted like the way chev should, which can be used, of course, on vegetables, on spread across bread or crackers. Shrev. I don't need to explain what chev is. Bell Chev does a nice one, and it's spreadable. Very cool. Sticking with cheese. Our friends in Wisconsin. I love Wisconsin cheese. They're our buddies. Chalet Cheese is a historical brand. And first off, I noticed they did a rebrand, and it looks really cool. So they got really cool packaging at Chalet Cheese. I love the way it looks very classic, and it has 1950s vibe to it, but very bright colors. Love it. But what is Chalet Cheese known for? They're known for historical cheeses. Brick cheese, Havarti, cheddar, those industrial cheeses, those workhorse cheeses that we love from Wisconsin. But they're also known for Limburger. Limburger is a famous, fragrant, pungent cheese. Do I know what Limburger tastes like? No, because I didn't get to taste it at the show. They weren't even tasting it. That's how crazy Limburger is. I got to try some Limburger. Chalet Cheese, reach out. I love to try it. Really cool product, really cool company. I loved it. Next up was probably my favorite product of the show. I'm not leaving it for the end. I'm just going to say it right here. Eddie's Homemade Kitchen Popcorn. This was in the Japan section, and I was struck by the packaging right away. They were going for, I would say, 1940s graphics. Like, it looked like something that you'd see at Mayberry. Really like a classic font, and I really liked the way it's branded. It was like classic Americana. The brand is cool, but the popcorn is even better. They use the mushroom-shaped corn, which we love. I love a mushroom-shaped kernel. I think those are the best types of popcorn. The flavors, though, oh my God, really, really terrific. Yuzu, pineapple, citrus, really, really great popcorn flavors using citrus. I got to, chat with the folks there. I've emailed them. We've been in touch, trying to get my hands on some products. It is available on Amazon. Problem is, I checked it out, and they said, well, it's a little expensive. Yeah, man, it's like 15 ounces for $29 on Prime. Like, it's good popcorn, but I don't think I'm going to pay $29 for 15 ounces of popcorn. That said, they're looking for distribution in the States. Eddie's Homemade Kitchen Popcorn. I hope that happens. I will buy many bags. Terrific product. Next up, Maza Magic Sauce. It was so cool to meet the founders. I met Yasmin and Sheila Sade. They're from the Twin Cities. They had a great story. I got to catch up with them at the booth. And Maza's everywhere. I saw it at the Whole Foods in New Jersey this weekend, and it's around, and I got to sample it. And it's a really nice product. It's cilantro and mango chutney and lemon aioli. They call it magic sauce. You can put it in lots of things. You can cook with it. You can put it on and dress your salad with it. You can dress vegetables with it. And they're channeling Afghan-American flavors. First-gen Afghan-American founders. I love to see that. Afghan food is prevalent throughout the world, but not as much in the United States. And really, really, really beautiful sauce here. I love catching up with them. Check out this product, Maza Magic Sauce. Next up, Eataly. Wow, that's not a small brand. You know Eataly. Well, the cool thing about Eataly is they're launching CPG. They're launching their own line of products. They've already launched it. I actually bought a panettone this Christmas time, and it was beautiful. And I got to chit-chat with the Eataly folks, and they were telling me all about their big plans. And Eataly sells so many great products from Italy all the producers, and I was like, how do you negotiate doing your own versus having other founders there and other products? And they're basically like, getting into Eataly is hard. There's so many products in the world. We pick the best ones. That's true. And so Eataly's own house products is basically saying, well, we can do it as good. Maybe the price is a little better. I like that flex there, because I think you can pick up some of the smaller products, pay a little more, and then get a great dry pasta, some olive oil, some balsamic, maybe a panettone from Eataly, mix it up. I really like what they're doing. I'm impressed by the line, and I loved the panettone. So Eataly CPG. Next up, I got to sample Vermont Creamery's salted cultured butter logs. Now, it's not a new product, I believe. I think it's been out for a little while. But how about this for baking, for putting it, great cultured butter. Remember, it says cultured butter. This isn't just a standard butter that's been perfectly seasoned. You can put this on radishes and dip it, do that whole French thing. You can definitely bake with it. There's lots of cool ways to use this product. And I just love catching up with Vermont Creamery. They were really cool people. And I love the salt. I love the salt factor. I think having crystals of salt in your butter for, bread or for wherever, really, really terrific. That's Vermont Creamery. Next up is Marieke Gouda, fenugreek Gouda. And this is from the great state of Wisconsin again. Shouts to our friends in Wisconsin cheese land. And this was a really unexpected Gouda flavor. Fenugreek is not a flavor that I associate with Gouda. And it really worked. It reminded me a little bit of the white jasmine tandoori cheese that we sampled, Eliza and I, when we were in Wisconsin. It's in our Wisconsin cheese episode. And I met the cheesemaker, Marika Pennerman, and, she holds a Wisconsin Master Cheesemaker certification, which there are only 4 women ever in the history of that program to achieve this. And in chatting with her, she was humble. Someone else told me this. She got a perfect score. So how about that? Perfect score on the exam. Really, really cool product. And I think she's from the Netherlands. She's making Gouda in its very classic sense and trained in the Netherlands, but is in Wisconsin doing it. If you can find this cheese at your specialty cheese shop, you should definitely check it out. That's Marieke Gouda, fenugreek Gouda. Terrific. Next up is Uncle Waithle's Smoked Pineapple Ginger Beer. A lot of ginger beers in the world. I love Regatta. Regatta is a really classic ginger beer, and I've definitely had it with alcohol. I've had it with non-alcohol. It's really nice. Now, Uncle Waithle's is a very cool product because they're using spiced Scotch bonnet peppers in it. Very, very, very important. This is a classic recipe from St. Vincent, and it really has a kick, but it does not burn. Hard to do. Now, I just love the way it refreshes and it tingles the palate. And this company has a cool story. It's founded by Carl Franz Williams. Now, he's the owner of 67 Orange, this kind of pioneering cocktail bar in Harlem, really one of the first speakeasy bars to open in Harlem, and has gotten great acclaim. Not been, but I've heard great things about it. And I love Uncle Waithle's. I know they're available at Whole Foods and variety of specialty beverage shops, and I think you should check it out. They definitely will sell you a bottle online. I know it's a really buzzy brand in the Whole Foods world. It's Uncle Waithle's. 2 more. Okay, this one was kind of, I would say when I walked up to the booth, I was like, okay, this is not my choice to snack on because it's frosting. It's frost buttercream. So they're selling buttercream in individual containers to, of course, spread across cupcakes. You can have a little buttercream on a larger cake if you want. But really, they're kind of selling it as a snacking frosting or icing. I guess you call it frosting. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. Man, it was good. It was really, really light, less calories than typical buttercream. This is kind of protein maxing at its core, advertising the protein macros of a buttercream snack. I'm here for this company, young founders, really enjoyed catching up with them. It's available in, I believe, New York only right now, Uber Eats and at Pop-Up Grocer. But I really like it. It's I kind of want to get a couple containers of it and snack on it. I feel it's the perfect 3 or 4 p.m. snack. Frost Buttercream is the name. Last one. Thank you for rolling with me on this monopod about the fancy food show in Las Vegas. Tamarind Heads barbecue sauce. Another Afghan-American company. I think they're from Georgia, they said. I think it was amazing to see tamarind sauce in this way. I could see it on ribs. I could see it in pulled pork. I really love the flavors. It felt like it was a fresh take on barbecue sauce that is called Tamarind Heads Barbecue Sauce. Okay, that's the list. I had a great time hanging out. I hope to go to other fancy food shows, maybe Expo West next year. I'm not going this year. I love this energy around founders in the CPG world. And you know what? I hope we can have a couple of the founders on the show. If you like any of these products, again, links in the show notes. Thanks for checking out these products. This is Taste is hosted by Eliza Abarbanel and me, Matt Rodbard. The show is produced by Shalia Harris and Pat Stango and edited by Clayton Gumbert. Theme music by Steve Rydell. Visit Taste online at tastecooking.com and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter for updates on all cool things that are happening.